What up, what up, what up? It's your boy Dave B. You're watching Dave B on TV, where we go beyond that everyday bullshit that people be consuming on a day-to-day basis. And I want to do a quick, just a little quick transit breakdown and shit like that. Because, now the moon is in Libra. So we dealing with different energies that we just coming off with, that Virgo energy probably had you in a state of, on the bad side, it might have had you a little anxious, might have had you a little worried, especially regarding status and shit like that, or not so much status, but whatever it is that you're working on, even in your health, so to some degree and shit like that. Because that's just that's the things that Virgo energy deals with, sixth house type shit. But, Virgo could be, in a different house than the sixth house, so it might be a different form of that, or things coming through in a way that ain't just specifically about, maybe your work or your health and shit like that, but it can cause anxiety. It just put us in a space, because wherever the moon's at, that's the space we in and shit like that. So it might have put you in a space where that shit might have just been on your mind, and then with all this energy already in Virgo and shit like that, our minds are probably going a lot faster now, but on the internal level right now, like I'm looking at the chart and shit like that, Mercury is 1 degree into Virgo and shit like that. So, it's still on the cusp and shit like that. But right now, what's happening is, coming off that new moon energy and shit like that, we was all developing a new character and shit like that. So, if we go all the way back to like Aries season, for instance, this whole year, every different transit, and I'm talking about like as the sun has been traveling through, as from Aries season to now, which we're in Leo season now and shit like that. Just every different transition has been a new layer of us getting to a point where we're really just creating a new self. This new self is like who we're gonna take into this next shift, and this next shift is already taking place and shit like that. So that's why we even come into certain conclusions and things of that nature now, where it's like, it's almost like the whole emphasis of this year. Because like I'll be looking at this shit sometimes, it's like when you look at the outer planets and shit like that, it's really about what they're doing as far as the grand scheme or the backdrop. And of course, we know the constellations is really the backdrop. So with constellations that certain things are going through, that's kind of like the backdrop for real. But just to make things simple on a different scale, right? If we just looking at this shit as the chart and like just looking at basic astrology and shit like that, not considering necessarily all of the constellations and shit, we see that these outer planets and shit, how they move is kind of like the theme almost, or they control the theme is in a way, in a sense where it's like, certain planets that stay in a certain sign for an extended period of time, and I'm talking about Uranus, I'm talking about even Neptune, I'm talking about Jupiter to some sense, because Jupiter, a little less, because Jupiter's, it moves a lot faster than some of these other outer planets, but like, things like Saturn and shit like that even, and Pluto, because those is, of course, the Pluto, Neptune, Uranus, these start to be more generational planets and things of that nature. So, these take, Uranus, for instance, takes about 7 years and shit like that. So that's a whole generation, that is going through. And so different planets, like, but my point is being certain planets like Saturn, for instance, right? They kind of set the theme of what reality is going to be for us in this next, in the current moment, in the current time frame, in the current transit that we in. So when you picking certain things, because like when I say certain transits and shit like that, it's almost like these outer planets are their own transit. Like that's the whole generation. That's what we came up with. For instance, it's like we came up during Pluto being in a certain sign, and we go through different generations and phases, your lifespan. Like, for instance, I'm Pluto in Scorpio generation and shit like that, but we done seen the whole of Pluto being in Sagittarius, and we done seen the whole, we about to see the end of Pluto being in Capricorn very soon, so it's like we grow, through different generations too, learning different things. And, of course, younger generations take the torch and go on. But my point being, these outer planets and shit like that, the way they shift is kind of like, I don't look at shit like, oh, that's more important, or that's less important, but it's just everything factors into each other. You know what I'm saying? Everything plays on to one another. So knowing the full spectrum always puts you at an advantage, because now you can situate yourself, and your mind will be in the right space. You know what I'm saying? You can have an informed, it's almost like, if you think about it like in science terms, right? So a hypothesis is like kind of like a belief, you know what I'm saying? It's like a hypothesis is you know what I'm saying, you might not be able to prove it, right? But you could have an educated guess, you know what I'm saying? So you could have like but you could only have an educated guess as far as how much you understand the parameter. If you don't really understand the dynamics of the parameter, your guess is always going to be a little, off, you know what I'm saying, just by nature, because you're not having, you don't have a full enough picture or spectrum of the situation at hand for you to actually make a prediction, or, and not so much make a prediction, but when we're going through life, we have to choose, right? Now, it's like safe for us to see examples and be like, oh, this is something that I've seen work before, so I can have more faith in it, right? But a lot of times it's like, that's the thing about life. Like, everybody's an individual. So truly, there is no example. I mean, there's examples in the sense of people being in spaces before you doing something that you might want to do. But even looking at different people as inspiration, or even teachers and shit like that, you have to find your own way of doing whatever it is that you're doing in that field, in that area, in that space, in that house. So it's like, when you're looking at different things, it's like there's really no examples. And that's the whole thing about Soul Group and shit like that, because, you know what I'm saying, of course, like, shout out to Dolo and shit like that. We watch him and shit like that. But like niggas be saying, like, it's more like reminders. It's more like I'm watching somebody say things that I was already coming to the conclusions to, but they're helping me connect certain patterns to be like, oh, that's why that is like that, or that's the root of that, right? But like, you know what I'm saying, other than that though, one thing that we all have in common and shit like that with Soul Group is that we was all in situations where in some way, form, or fashion, we had to create our own mind about things. We realized that however the people around me are moving, thinking, and talking and shit like that, I can't quite grasp that. I can't just go along with what everyone is telling me to think or telling me to feel. I'm going through something else. We all had to kind of, and that becomes that whole age-old principle, the 7, where you have to, it's some form of separation that starts to just naturally happen, where we was all in a space where we was kind of alone, and we kind of didn't really know what to do, but we had the spiritual strength to be like, well, shit, I'm a build my own mind, and I'm gonna choose myself. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna choose myself. I'm gonna choose to invest in myself, and I'm gonna trust myself to whatever degree. And we, of course, all have different doubts and different strengths and weaknesses and shit like that. Like, some people might still be a little self-conscious. Some people might be a little nervous to do certain things and shit like that. But we all had enough level of belief in ourselves to be like, well, either way, I'm gonna separate from what I know ain't working, and I'm gonna figure out my own way. So, if you in the subconscious community, that's where we connect with, because we all had a similar type. Of course, all of our awarenesses of spirituality and how we came into our own being. Of course, all of that shit is, somebody dying in the back, coughing and shit. I don't know if y'all heard that, but like, we all have different experiences as far as how we got to where we are, of course, but there'd be similar principles where, and like, it's kind of funny when, what I'm saying, it is what it is when you look at who it is that we are connecting through in a lot of ways, what I'm saying, that whole energy, what I'm saying, the Uriel principle and shit like that, talking about the fall, the Antares energy, where it's like, that's really where that separation occurs and shit like that, what I'm saying, because that Antares energy, I believe that shit is Sagittarius, Scorpio, and Libra, what I'm saying? So that's the whole fall period. The fall period is about separation. 7th house is that Libra energy, that separation, what I'm saying? But that separation takes you through the depths. But then from that depth, you gain a lot of wisdom and knowledge and shit like that. And that's what the whole channel has become. And that's what, we've taken from it is a form of wisdom. And now, we on some real spiritual shit where it's like we seeing all that, but we didn't just stay in that one principle. We actually learned the whole spectrum. But it's like through the fall and death is where you really start to grasp the bigger picture, those outer I was gonna say outer planets, but those below the horizon type signs and shit like that, where things ain't so much about what's on the surface. You know what I'm saying? When you start getting the seventh house, eighth house, ninth, 10th, 11th, and 12th, that shit is like that we not even in conscious. Like we in the subconscious realm, basically. And that's kind of like the whole meaning behind being below the horizon or some shit. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like being in the yin, you know what I'm saying? Where you're dealing with things that's not just on the surface. You're dealing with things that's going on beneath it and different motivations that happen before even things materialize. You know what I'm saying? Then when you get back to the one, you know what I'm saying, first house, second house, to the sixth house, now you're talking about things that's more in the open, things that's more on the surface, aka springtime, summertime, and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? Where we're less concerned about what's going on beneath the surface, more so just participating in the sun, you know, in the sun's principles, participating in, you know, going out, being seen and doing things in the physical rather than being so concerned on what's going on internally. But of course, you know what I'm saying, that's just it, looking at it from a, you know, blank thing. We know, you know, when it comes to the spiritual shit, everything is internal. So, you know what I'm saying, no matter if it's spring, summer, winter, fall, nigga, you need to make sure you correlate your internal energies and shit like that and not just get washed up in what's going on. You know what I'm saying? Hold on, I gotta blow my nose and shit. All right, my bad. But yeah, you know what I'm saying. So that's what's going on. So when as we're traveling through this shit, right? So getting back to the actual chart itself, like, so I was just kind of talking about how, you know, those outer planets and shit like that, those be, so those kind of be like background themes and shit like that. Of course, the real background is the constellations we going through and shit like that. But you know what I'm saying, you know what I'm saying, right? We gonna keep it simple. We gonna stick with these and just kind of go on this concept. But you know what I'm saying, like I said, knowing the full spectrum, if you do peep what's going on constellation wise, and you know, okay, you can start to pay attention to those, and those will be kind of bigger ways of kind of, you know what I'm saying, just more information for you to be like, okay, you know what I'm saying, this is kind of the whole theme. Just like how, you know, we're going through, you know, they'll say it's the age of Aquarius, but it's really the age of Centaurs based upon the constellation we're going through at the moment. You feel me? So knowing that, going beyond just Aquarius, no, it's the Centaurs, and knowing what the Centaurs are and how they move and different things, you know what I'm saying, the different stories. Because really, when you think about different mythologies and shit like that, of course you don't want to read something and get lost into the information, but the stories and shit like that people tell, that's how information is really passed down. Everything is really through stories, you know what I'm saying. That's the oldest art form for real, just people telling stories. And see, when you start to incorporate your imagination, see, it's not about how, it's like, you got to realize, like, even when it comes down to like things like Shakespeare, right? It's like, you might think these is actual people, or no, these are real stories. But a lot of times, like, if you think of any movie, like an animated movie, that's not the real character. Those aren't real events. But beyond the events that actually happen, is the point of the story being told. That's it's like, how do I explain this? It's like, because like people get like, and this is the reason why I feel like a lot of movies these days is some bullshit, because there's no emotional, or not to say every form of media or entertainment has to be philosophical or emotional and shit like that, but there's no deeper meaning and reasoning as to why. Because it's like, you watch a movie and it's like there's entertainment, but then there's like a different level of entertainment. Like there's shallow entertainment, and then there's like a deeper sense of entertainment. Usually the things that deeply entertain us are the things that we start to connect with, because we see, whether we see ourselves in the character, or we see ourselves in the circumstance, or we can feel and connect to the circumstance and shit like that. And then a different layer happens where we actually learn something about our current situation through the shit that we're being entertained by. It's kind of interesting because I feel like this is like the relationship between, because it's really dealing with, you know what I'm saying, when we talk about movies and shit like that, it's like there's a triangle going on between the fifth house and the ninth house, where it's like the, and like this could be different for different people, because not everybody likes to watch something and necessarily learn, but it's not so much about learning, it's more so about the experience or being connected to a story, and then you being able to take some kind of meaning or reason in that you can apply to anything in your life. So even if you're watching a comedy, it's just a funny ass movie. If it's a good movie, you got to experience the happiness in which that's being portrayed and you perform through the art and the medium. You feel me? So it's like you connect to it, and then you can experience that with them. And then at the end of it all, you can kind of sit back and just smile at it. Like, you know what I'm saying? So it's not about learning, because, you know, the ninth house is learning, but more so experience. So what you learning through, it's like, that's why it's kind of funny, because it's like learning is like kind of the point in a way. And that's why, like, I remember, you know, even Dola has said, you know, when we talk about the natural north node is the ninth house and shit like that. So it's like naturally, and by natural north node, I don't mean like everybody is, you know, but I mean like if we talking about where those spaces derive from, you know what I'm saying? It's the ninth house and being the north node, and the third house being the south node and shit. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, in a way, we all moving towards those ninth house principles. That's why I feel like that's even why, you know, because when you talk about teaching and shit like that, it's kind of interesting. Like, it's almost like everybody want to be a teacher. Everybody can be a teacher, but at the same time, it's like, depending on, it's like everybody has something to teach another person. That's really what I mean. Not everybody's meant to be a teacher, but everyone has something that they can teach somebody else. That's why I like to move in a way that I don't judge, or I don't shut people out. Like I don't, you know how I said don't judge a book by a cover, but like, it's like not necessarily, like, it's more so like I don't shut people out. Whatever you brought here as an experience and perspective, throughout that experience, how you choose to display that shit, I might not always agree with how people, just like you might not always agree with how people kick their experiences and their wisdom, or you might not always find value in it, but everyone has something of value to teach and expand somebody. Even the things that piss you off, a lot of times it be the shit that piss you off that you learn the most from, if you really on that level, because you know that frustrations, or we should know by now, frustrations and shit be a clear indicator of things that we quite didn't get over last lifetime, or we might have had some kind of, there was a tussle and we didn't quite get to the bottom of it. We didn't quite figure it out, because, you know, truly, and it's not about walking through your life like everything is happy and not ever admitting that you experience unpleasant moments, or not, you know what I'm saying, not getting mad, and, you know what I'm saying, allowing people to kind of overstep your boundaries and shit like that. It's not about that, but it's more so about, because we know the principle of being like, no, I control me. I'm the only one who can tell me when I'm upset. I choose when to get into certain energies. I choose when to activate my Mars. I don't let things in the outside spark up an emotion in me, because that's what we're trying to do. We all trying to become better creators. So if you a person, like, you know, on the spiritual shit, you know, when you're going through life and things are, that's not good. That's just like you getting possessed, when other things externally can spark different emotions in you. Like, you know, now it's natural. What I mean by that is like, it's a natural process. Like, of course, you interacting with different people, so energies are gonna mix. You're gonna get upset by things, but you know how when you do get sparked off, right, before you really can control your state of being, you can allow a spark or somebody else's light to hit you in a way to have you jump into a whole different, like, it's like, because you know the space you in is what you're going to start attracting. So if you don't have proper control over yourself and how your state of being is and how you move and the things that irritate you, aka the things that you're learning and working through in this lifetime, if you don't have a grasp on that, anything anybody can say can set you off, and then now you already open to all the different thoughts and feelings that come from being in that space that someone else put you in. And that's what I'm getting at. It's like you got to have a certain power, like that's taking your power back. And that's why that's the whole thing about the media, where it's like they set you on a trail. They set you on a trail because it's like they trying to get a reaction. They got your reaction. Okay, boom. Now you in this space. And now you're naturally for yourself going to attract all the negative things that come from just being in that space. But the whole point is someone else put you there. Now, if you was to control your own shit and your reactions and shit like that, like truly, man, I got dark real quick. But if you was truly, you had that control over yourself, right? You spiritually strong, so nobody can put you in a different space. You choose what space you want to put in. There's a different level of mastery, or not mastery, but there's a different level of intention you can add to everything you do. For instance, it's like you able to, if something is irritating you, right, you can receive it and be like, okay, whoa, I don't like that energy. Then it's a different choice. It's like, let me put myself in this space because now this person is starting to overstep my boundaries. So I have to show a side of me. So that's taking your power back. You feel me? You put yourself in a certain space to then have a different intention to get a result. And that's what I mean. Like, we all here to become better magicians and artists. And like, life is art. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, life is art. Your lifestyle is art. I don't think a lot of people get that. Your lifestyle is art. How you express yourself, how you go about that shit, performance, you know what I'm saying? And like, it's a lot of different other factors and shit like that. But on a very simple scale, in a lot of ways, life is art. That's why the most interesting stories be just people. You know what I'm saying? When you talk about the movies that are bullshit and shit like that, a lot of times they come with a lot of flashiness. Best example I have is the Transformers movie. Now, you might like the Transformers and shit, but you know damn well it's no real story behind that shit. It's just real cool to look at, like these big machines fighting and shit, like, oh shit. But when you look at the essence of what that story was, and went, ain't shit in it. Wasn't shit in it. But then you look at a movie like 7 Pounds, right, with Will Smith and shit like that. Now, whether you like the movie or not, you can't deny that movie had an essence to it. And that's a movie I ain't even really like. It's not like, that ain't one of my favorite movies. A lot of people, you know what I'm saying, it'd be like a lot and it's a sad movie and shit like that, but it don't always have to be a sad movie. My point is just like, there's stories with heart in it. Stories with, you already know that stories cut off and shit like that. But you know, back to what I was saying though, yeah, stories about people. And like, it's like beyond people, it's the lifestyle and shit, like, or like, yeah, like it's like like seeing different characters. Like when you love a show, you love the show because you can connect with the characters. You like what the characters be talking about. And even if there's somebody that you hate, a character you hate, it's like there's a lot of situations where we like, people naturally like drama, you know what I'm saying? They like train wrecks and shit like that. So when there is a character that you hate, but it's done in the right way, it's almost like you love to hate that character, or you have a certain, it's like a lot of times even the character you hate might be the most like you know what I'm saying? And like, you might not even get that, but that's the whole play on the mind that art has and shit like that, where we don't know, like, you might not know why you like a certain thing or why you dislike a certain thing, but you can connect to it, and that's what gets you. It's not about how many explosions happen in the show. It's about, no, the people going through the explosions, and then once you're invested in the people, then you give a fuck about their circumstances and shit like that. Because like, that's a lot of times, and going back to what I was saying about movies, that's why a lot of movies is like some bullshit, because motherfuckers don't be taking the time to develop a character and then, you know, develop a story but having the story be on different layers. Because it's like when you, and now I'm getting kind of into, you know, film talk and shit like that. So hopefully y'all rocking with that too. But there's spirituality and everything. Like, but my point being, like, when you, and this could be in any art form you do, you know what I'm saying? Like, even drawing be different. But like, say you want to do comics and shit, you have to know how to tell a story, and stories are told through characters. People don't care about the story until they care about the people in it, until they see themselves in it. And this is kind of also the other end of the trine, low key, with Aries, because everyone comes into this thing on some Aries shit. Everybody comes into a movie on some Aries shit. An individual, I'm not, what the fuck is this? You know what I'm saying? You now, of course, different marketing and things like that. You might actually like the movie that you you know what I'm saying? You're not gonna see any kind of movie, but I mean, I'm talking in the general sense of just like, if you did go to a theater, or like, you know, because how do people discover shit that they didn't know they like? You know what I'm saying? Every now and then, you know, we all been in a situation where we flipping through channels, we looking at Netflix previews and shit like that, and it's like certain things might spark our interest. So I'm personally interested. Like, I like the personal, like these things that's going on in the story. They personally interesting to me on some Aries shit, right? So you know what I'm saying? I'll give it some time. But that's just very spark-like. Because once you see one thing in the trailer you don't like, you're like, whatever. You know what I'm saying? But like I said, I just be, you know what I'm saying? This time around, I'm allowing myself to just go. You know what I'm saying? Moon in Libra and shit like that. So I'm in a communication mood, which is kind of rare, low key. But you know what I'm saying? When we talk about this shit, I could talk about this shit all day. But got some coffee and shit. But anyway, going back, so time to reel everything in. So let's reel it in so we can make some sense out of this shit. So basically what I'm saying is, like, you know, stories, lifestyles, like that's what people is really connecting on, right? Like what's going on, it's like what is the point? And that's the thing. That's what I'm getting at. What's the point? We coming into a time right now where it's like people aren't even in, like a couple years ago that transforming shit with a rock. Now it's like people want more, or even when it's like, and that's what I mean by, like, now today's entertainment is bullshit, because everything you see, you're looking for the deep. Everyone is on some level looking for a deeper meaning or connection, and there is none, because everything is being produced and created on some like very what works type shit. And so it's not artistic, it's not creative, it's not innovative, it's no room for expansion. It's nothing to it's not expanding nothing. And that's what I be getting at, where, and that going back to what I was saying, just to end this point, right? The trine, the secret trine between these things when it comes to creativity. The Aries being how everyone kind of approaches the situation, right? Because even on a creator end, your personal interest sparked what you wanted to get into creatively. Like your personal interest sparked what you wanted to invest your time into, to be performed, to be art that you displayed. You know what I'm saying? AKA fifth house, to be, yeah, you know what I'm saying? And that's a trine. So what you personally interested into has the gift to entertain you. And you also have a gift within that to create something to entertain others based upon what you personally interested. And then low key, the point of all that, or when it really starts to connect, when it really starts to catch, is when you can complete that trine with the Sagittarius energy and that ninth house energy, where it's like now, in some way, through your experience and your unique, you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna say uniqueness, but you know, because fire is unique. Fire ain't connection. It's the opposite. It's disconnection in a lot of ways, but disconnection in the sense of being like by itself. You know, a fire is, you know what I'm saying? But a fire can catch, fire can expand. But I'm kind of getting into a different thing. But your uniqueness, it comes full trine when you have that last bit of it, where that last fire is about expansion. You've, in some way, through your unique experience, expanded someone else's experience, or they connected to that lifestyle, so they was able to grasp and see your vision, right? And have their own philosophical point of view about what you created. And then now at that point, you created a dialogue. So even if you, as the creator, and that person that you entertained or showed something to, never talk ever, there is a conversation being had in the esoteric realm, where somebody who really admires your art is giving out energies in some way, some level, you've received that. You know what I'm saying? Or if people dislike your shit. And like, when it comes to how people react and respond to your shit, whether they like it or love it, of course, this is just energy in general. So whether it's good vibes that they send it to you, or negative vibes, you as the, you know what I'm saying, we strong spirits, you can control however you want to do that. Because we see all the time people will be like, oh, this person's trash, but they the hottest person out, because they know how to take that negative energy and turn it into whatever they want to do. And that goes back into what I was saying about someone else taking you out of your space. See, that's why, like, there's a fight when it comes to art, because, you know, in a lot of ways, like I said, it's that fire energy. So you gotta fight for your individuality. You gotta fight for your right to express. Everybody got a right to express themselves, but that shit is a fight. You know what I'm saying? It's fire. You gotta put yourself in there. You gotta, you know what I'm saying? And that's the same with all energies, where even if you was trying to apply this to earth energy and shit like that, you're a person, you just can't quite organize your life. Sometimes you just gotta look at the element itself and then, you know, acknowledge what you can do, but you gotta be that. Like, you know what I'm saying? It goes back into the principle of being what it is you manifesting and shit like that. So we at a time right now where, like, I had made a video before, but right now, right? So like I was saying earlier in this video about how since Aries season, you know what I'm saying, we've been developing new parts. And now we actually starting to get to the part where we're almost done with the surface of, aka the basic principles of whoever we're becoming, right? Because we're constantly becoming a true version of ourselves and shit like that. It's just sometimes you might get lost in certain things, and it'll take you a longer to kind of, it's like, because you got lost, right? Because you got to lose yourself to find yourself, but sometimes being lost and shit like that will take you on a road, you know, and there's no time limit to that. So it's like, it is what it is, you know what I'm saying? But sometimes but you just had to spend a little more time figuring that part of yourself out. That's what it means really when we get lost. It's like we're taking it's not really even a detour, because it's your path. Your path is what you're going through. So it's no like, oh, I gotta be at this level at a certain age. It's like the only levels that's going on is the ones within you, and that's you getting to a truer essence of yourself, aka, as I said before, we all becoming better artists and better magicians with ourselves, the truer expressions of ourselves. So that, you know, and then those go hand in hand with our imagination, and then our imagination becomes the dream that we building for ourselves outside of this lifetime, you know what I'm saying? And then it's like, the better you can control these and the better you can hone in on that, when you pass on, you going right to your heaven, you know what I'm saying? But even in the present, as you are building upon that imagination and taking better control and responsibility over yourself, you bringing that heaven to you anyway. So you'll see smaller forms. And this is where it's like, you see smaller forms of that paradise that you're creating for yourself, you know what I'm saying? And not everything gonna be peachy, because like I said, this lifetime is going through different waves and learning how to manage, and even with the blessings that you do receive and shit like that, you still have to, there's still things to learn within that. There's this world is constantly going to put you in things you need to separate from, and it's like we can't even get too romantic with the things that we start to receive, you know what I'm saying? It's like we just got to acknowledge it, appreciate it, have gratitude, but at the same time know that we are no thing. So not taking our imagination and trying to attach to it, because even our imaginations grow stale. Even our imaginations need to die sometimes. Even our imaginations that we you know what I'm saying? It's like, it's the natural cycle. Getting lost into an imagination is the same as getting lost to anything. And like, you know what I'm saying? That's the easiest thing to get into, because it'll be your own world and shit like that. But, you know, expanding, you know what I'm saying? Expanding into that. But my point, you know what I'm saying? What's the point? So the whole point is, you know, we've been going through different layers of learning more and more about ourselves. And so this year in general has been that. This year has been the one that's like, this is a true shift year. It feels like the whole year is a shift. And maybe that's just because of the level, like how tapped in we are now, where, you know, back in 2012 when there was shifts happening, it kind of happened, but we was experiencing, and we just trusted ourselves enough to move in the right direction. Now it's the same way technically, but this is like a different kind of shift where, and maybe just because of the spiritual growth that we all have done, we peep it, we see it kind of almost like I said, this whole year it's been very apparent, the shift happening, and different people being in different spaces and being like, okay, well, in all senses, we all just becoming truer versions of ourselves, right? So now being in this after this Leo new moon, this was the face. So for the first time, we actually seeing who it is that we was trying to be and who we are now, like, or who we truly are, you know what I'm saying? Like I said, it's like, this is who we've been all along. It's just now we seeing it. New moon in Leo, we seeing it, and we like these next couple moons are like trials. So the moon sliding into Virgo, that was us learning how to make that shit make sense, how to learn how to make this new persona, or the persona that we, you know, it's not really new, but it's new because it's new as we discover new things about ourselves. We always, it's a new tool we have to express through, or something that, a new face that we wearing that we can express with, a new mentality that we are expressing. You get what I'm saying? So it's like, yeah, we're learning how to make this new face make sense, how to make this new face work for us, how to make this new face organize, and how to organize this new face, how to organize this new persona, how to organize this new vision and shit like that. The way you see, you know what I'm saying? Now, through and see the thing about also Virgo too is, you know, it's kind of what I like to do too is like you when you really into this astrology shit, you start to see kind of how the planets are moving also. So like I'm looking at this shit right now, and it's like everything is slowly concentrating into that Virgo energy right now. So that lets me know, and this is before the sun actually gets into Virgo. So before we can pay attention to what's going on in the Virgo energy, we're low-key having our thoughts, passions, and what we appreciate and value already there. It's going through different experiences, right? So this tells me this is one of those years where right now it's like everything, like I said, everything plays onto each other. In a lot of ways, this shit is setting up. So the moon sliding in there for a quick moment, like I said, this is us organizing this shit like that. So even though our attention is still in that Leo energy, the sun is still in the Leo, where we're expressing ourselves, right? Expressing ourselves and being seen and getting our visions out there and shit like that. Even though that's where our attention is, we need to start appreciating structure. We need to start appreciating and valuing how we can organize ourselves, organize our expressions. We need to start, you know what I'm saying? We need to start when it comes to the things we are actually passionate about, because the sun and Mars, it's like they kind of play on each other. You know what I'm saying? When you have a good sun and Mars alignment, you are more, it's like easier for you to have focus coming from the sun, and then intention. So it's like focused intent. So when you dealing with, if you trying to do anything and like really be focused and hone in on it and like see it through, you it's like that Mars and that sun. So what I mean by that is like our intent needs to be geared. And so no matter where sun and Mars are in the sky, right? Even though in certain placements, of course, different alignments, like for instance, if it was a square or opposition, yeah, those are kind of alignments that you're going to have to work through, either through a learning process, aka the square, or balancing through the opposition. But, you know, if you just looking at this shit for what it is, our intent is in Virgo. So our intent needs to be geared toward some form of building, some form of scheduling, some form of organization, some form of intent geared towards the details about how, where the sun is, you plan to express yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, no matter where the planets are, it's like when you really understand this astrology shit, you can start to get creative with how you look at these planets and shit like that. So like I'm looking at all the planets, like I said, Mercury just joined everybody in Virgo. So our mind's about to be on that shit. This lets me know, and this is all before the sun gets there. So it's like right now, if you really want to get ahead, and it's not really about getting ahead, but it's about taking advantage of the present moment. And like I was saying in that last video, investing your time properly. Investing your time properly right now, you'll probably get a lot of return on investment if you go ahead and make sure you're thinking about how to structure this shit, starting to think more about what your passion is and what intent you plan to do, and that intention being geared to structuring your whatever it is that you're doing, structuring yourself, your situation, your circumstance, whatever it is, structuring it, your passions really, structuring your passions and having intentions to whatever you're passionate about, make it work, make it make sense, so that when the sun does come there, you're not in catch-up mode. You know what I'm saying? Because like I said, it's not so much about you trying to get ahead. I don't really even think that exists, because the future is something we created in the present. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, if you are prepared, that's different. So prepared is really what we mean by get ahead, because, you know, life is constant. So even if you do something, it's like you might do something early. Well, there's still time in between in that early space. You know, there's still time in between that. So really getting ahead, I mean, it's just helping you out for the present. So if you don't do anything in that time till the time that whatever you prepare for early comes, it's like, well, you know what I'm saying, that if you get what I'm saying, like you didn't really do nothing. I mean, you just took a little, might took some anxiety off of you. And but you know, the purpose of that space and time is like to create, you know, a different timeline for yourself. Cause like if you do something early and then you choose to work on even further earlier shit, it's like, yeah, technically you getting ahead, but it's like you just dividing your time different. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, if that makes sense, you know what I'm saying? I might be just confusing, you know what I'm saying? But that'd be my point. It's like investing in time, you know what I'm saying? You do something ahead of time, though. All it's doing is really giving you space in between that time to do something else in the present. But you know what I'm saying? It's still the same amount of time. You just sliced it differently. So, you know what I'm saying? Like everybody has their unique way of working with time and shit like that. But getting back on this, because we'll talk about time when we talk about Saturn and shit. So getting back on this shit with Virgo, you know what I'm saying? Like that's kind of where we're gearing up, you know what I'm saying, next as far as the sun. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of like my whole point of just all those energies in Virgo. Our minds need to be starting to, okay, let's slow our minds down. Let's start thinking practical about this shit. Let's start actually trying to organize this shit, because it's not going to be, like I said, it's not going to be our main focus right now. But see, even the sun being in 20 degrees of Leo, that's the last deacon of that shit. The last deacon of Leo is Sagittarius. So this is about being more wise anyway. Being more wise. Okay, now we done had the fire, but what you actually, what are we trying to do with the fire? Like by the time, you know what I'm saying, Leo's in the late deacon of, you know what I'm saying, the Sagittarius deacon of, you know, Leo is more like that'd be the undertone. It'd be Sagittarian like. So being more wise, being less, maybe less fixated, you know, less, like still fixated, but more open to seeing different views, maybe different views of your own fire, really. You know what I'm saying? Because it's still the Leo energy. So it's still fixed. But the undertone being Sagittarius, being mutable fire, it's like, okay, this is my fire, but let me see if there's other inspiration around me that I can use to make my fire look better, or, you know, either add to my fire, or maybe I'll be open to looking at how somebody else is seeing something, or maybe their opinion on my fire, right? Or how they, like, their opinion on how they see my fire. And maybe that'll make me more wise about how I go about displaying my fire, or how I go about doing that shit. So that's kind of, that'd be the, you know what I'm saying, kind of the where we at right now, right? Anyway, going into, so the moon, right? The moon has already left Virgo. So that was, like I said, these next couple moon transits is finna be trials leading up to the full moon and shit like that. Trials where we're developing more dimensions with this new persona that we have, or that we've created, you know what I'm saying? So the next dynamic is like the dynamic we in now. Like I said, the moon is now in Libra. So with the moon being in Libra, now it's about communication. So it's about relating, how we relate this new persona and shit like that. Now there's a sextile here, opportunities to be had. So right now is a good, it's like, even if you don't feel, it's like if you playing at bad seeds, you're not gonna feel like having conversations, especially not if you're not comfortable. Because if you playing at bad seeds, you're not comfortable with the new persona you have. And even if you did plant good seeds, you're gonna be more comfortable. But you know, comfortability is something that we have to create for ourselves. Being comfortable is something that we have to initiate. You know what I'm saying? Cancer. Can't make this shit up, bro. Being comfortable is something that we have to initiate. So it's like, it's not just gonna come to you. So even if you know, it's like sometimes, because I used to do this early on, right? You'd be like, damn, am I playing good seeds? Because sometimes, like with life, it'd be a balance. It'd be like, some things go your way, some things don't. You know what I'm saying? So it'd be like different shit where it's like, you might get lost in the loop thinking too much. Like, am I planting good seeds? You know, am I, or am I not doing enough? Or, you know, because the situation I'm in now is kind of positive, but like it's kind of negative. And so you can get lost in that shit. Don't do that. Like I said, I used to do that shit, but it's more like you got to be like, it's really all up to how you go about it. It's up to you to set the tone for whether it was a good seed or not. Because it's like, you know, fruit is fruit. You know what I'm saying? Of course, bad fruit is like something that's directly bad. But if you're a person who you reap fruit, there's some positive and there's some, like, it's like you got to realize that not all fruits is going to be perfect. So whatever fruits you do reap, that's your fruit. So you take responsibility for what you reap. And at that point, you size it up. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? You have to size it up, and you got to be like, all right, this is good enough fruit. I know, and we all getting better. So it's like, make that decision to get better with it. So if you know you manifested something, it's like, we always manifest, or your current situation is what you manifested already. So you got to look at your shit and be like, okay, every time you receive fruit, I'm gonna use this to make myself better. So that's like you reaping the fruit, and it's like you tasting you eat the fruit for nutrients to have more energy to do the next thing you need to do. But regardless, you still receiving fruit. Now, if you getting fruit and that shit making you sick, aka people around, like everything is playing as a roadblockage, things is not easy, things is not fluid in your life. You're not even moving nowhere. You're not making no traction and shit like that. And traction being, because sometimes it's like not traction is in the sense of other people are acknowledging your progress. Traction in the sense of you're moving in a direction, and it's like, because it's not really about other people, but other people are good references for whether you're displaying your energy right. That's why we relate to, it's like, you know what I'm saying, how you relate to different people and shit like that, or how people react and respond to you. These be good indicators of, you know what I'm saying, a lot of ways they be reflections, but reflections and shit like that. So if you receiving a lot of, if you around a lot of people who's not giving you nothing, like not giving you nothing positive, or not even helping, or not acknowledging anything, then you know, okay, I'm not even in the right space. And then that becomes the thing where you got to get around people, you know what I'm saying? You got to get around people that is going to, you know what I'm saying? But that comes from, there's a lot of different layers to that, you know what I'm saying? Because that becomes a thing where it's like you might not even be expressing yourself in the right way. But you know what I'm saying? Without getting too lost in that, all I'm saying is that when you're receiving fruits and shit like that, you gotta, you know what I'm saying, you doing the taste testing. So it's not, you know what I'm saying, don't drive yourself crazy asking yourself, am I, man, So yeah, it be no sense to drive yourself crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's no sense to drive yourself crazy on that end, because it's like, you know what I'm saying, it's like, you know, we at a time, it's like, look, you just got to do you know what I'm saying, and have full confidence in that. And like, that's kind of what this time period is teaching us anyway, like how to have true confidence in whatever it is that we going through, you know what I'm saying, as we continue to transform and grow. But, you know, getting back on point, you know what I'm saying, it's just like right now, so, you know, whatever you going through and shit like that, we going through different layers. This is a trial run. So you might not be ready or feel right, but it's like it is what it is now in this present moment, meaning you can waste time, or you can invest time in not being sure. You can invest time in that, but that's all you're gonna reap, not being sure. And that's probably why you're even looking at your fruits right now like you're not really sure, because that's the fruit that you done created for yourself, is not being sure and shit like that. So at a certain point, you just got to be sure, and then display that energy. And like I said, comfortability is something we initiate. So you got to put forward energy into that. You got to create inertia there. You have to invest time into that. You know what I'm saying? Time, and motherfuckers will tell you, like, you know what I'm saying, when it comes to things that reflect security, things that reflect comfort, things that reflect stability and shit like that, it's a time thing. It's a time thing. It takes time. You know what I'm saying? When either you talking about a tourist and shit like that, it takes time to get there, you know, with them, or, you know what I'm saying, of course, different alignment, you know, but it takes time. You have to invest time with them. You know, that tourist energy is about invested time, fixated earth, trees, you know what I'm saying? Plants, animals, you know, I say animals, but plants, you know, take time to grow, and even growth, you know what I'm saying? It takes a minute to grow into things, you know what I'm saying? Like, and then with Cancer energy, you know what I'm saying? It takes time to get there. You have to have intention there, and it takes time to secure something, you feel me? Or to get something, you know what I'm saying, to feel right. You know what I'm saying? That's why, like, that Cancer energy is, it's initiating, because it's like it might take a minute to feel right with something. It might take a minute, you know what I'm saying? And that's why I don't even get along with energies such as Uranus, where there's change, too much change. Even Mars being no, Mars falls there. Mars is exalted in Cap, but it falls there. You know what I'm saying? Because Mars is, you know what I'm saying, it's, you know what I'm saying, Mars wants things done in a certain way, like not even in a certain way, but quickly, you know, recklessly and shit like that. And Cancer's like, but you know what I'm saying, that's where the disconnect comes in, where it's like, hold on, like I just got here, or I'm trying to still get settled here. Relax, you know what I'm saying? It can't relax, you know what I'm saying? Mars is like, nah, let's get up, let's do something, let's put something in motion, you know what I'm saying? So it kind of creates a disconnect there. But getting back to what I was saying, so the moon being in Libra right now, it's about communication, about in some form of fashion networking, you know what I'm saying? Because networking, of course, is more like the 11th house energy, where it's more so amongst associates, but of, you know, one-on-one relationships and communication is just as important to networking, you know what I'm saying? That, you know what I'm saying, that's something being built. That's a different layer of networking, you know what I'm saying? It's an interpersonal connection and shit like that. And we still on the way. Like I said, that's going to be the full moon energy. That's going to be when, so when the moon does get to, by the time it gets there, that's where we're going to be able to do the same thing we doing now, but on a broader scale, you know what I'm saying? So doing these are like I said, these are all trial runs. So right now you can take a lot of opportunities to start to communicate with this new persona, this new face and shit like that, this new sense of expression, testing out with one-on-one relationships. Because see, on a one-on-one tip, you can start to, and this is another thing too, is like you have to, like I said, you have to invest time into getting, so this is what we're all going through. We all going through us being a new person and having to test the shit out. And the better that, the more experiences you put yourself through, in which you just putting yourself out there and you seeing the reactions, and you reacting and responding to the responses. You know, it's AKA you taking information from how motherfuckers is coming across, how people are interacting with you, and you're building upon that. The better you do that, the more you do that. And this is the time to do that, because remember, we're in a waxing period. So the waxing period is when the new moon leading into the full moon. So whatever you invest in now is what you're going to be able to reap the benefits of when the full moon hits. So it's like the more experiences you able to put yourself through and shit like that, and manage yourself through, now these are going to be the better ways in which, so when it is time for the moon to be in Aquarius, right, you won't have to over network, you won't have to over communicate. You'll already be surrounded in a community, in an area around motherfuckers who get you, who know your expressions, because you've been displaying the expressions, you've been expressing yourself, carrying yourself, you done made sense out of it, you done proved yourself to be whatever it is that you think you are, or you know what I'm saying, and who is anyone to tell you not? You know, you've already been expressing yourself, so you won't have to go out your neck to do some unique shit. People already deem you as unique, because and that's what we're gonna be dealing with the full moon energy. Because you know the full moon gonna probably be, it's gonna, I believe late Aquarius is probably, it's really gonna be on the cusp and shit. Because I think the very next day it's gonna be like 0 degrees Virgo and shit like that. By the time, maybe, you know what I'm saying, I'm not very sure. Well, I can check right now. I don't feel like doing all that shit. But the point is, it's gonna be a full moon in either, and most likely Aquarius. You know what I'm saying? If not, it'll be a full moon in Pisces. But it'll be so early degree that we still dealing with the same thing. It's gonna be on the cusp and shit like that. So it's still gonna be a sense of water too there. You know what I'm saying? And you know what I'm saying? How awful would it be if you felt like, because you know, like I said, everything leads into another thing. So even with that energy, you know, coming off of that, that Aquarius energy, right? It's all about uniqueness and shit. It's going to lead into that Pisces energy. And see, with the full moon type shit, you might feel, because you didn't plant good seeds, you feel so much like you're not an individual, that you start to even lack faith in your dreams, or you lack faith in your imagination, because you didn't even create an imagination that's unique enough to stand out. So now you might try to overdo it, or you just got to chalk it up and be like, ah, damn, well, I missed another opportunity. And right now, like, this is one of the most crucial times, because being that we on that, I look at every present moment as a crucial time, but there's certain times in the sky where things is kind of handing you, and I feel like this with the universe too, especially with perspective, right? The perspective I be in, the universe be handing you exactly what you need in order to make whatever you want. But a lot of times we don't have that. We either don't have the creativity to think that way, or we don't take advantage of it the way we should, you know, due to fear, doubt, whatever the fuck we created for ourselves as a blockage. You know what I'm saying? Because all blockages is stuff we created for ourselves, because we only experiencing forms of reflection and shit like that. And so, you know what I'm saying, like forms of reflection. So even things that you deem is fucked up, or restrictions in your life and shit like that, like Saturn type shit, these are things that in some way is a reflection of what you created for yourself, and that comes into the circumstances that you be in. But the, you know what I'm saying, better magician, better creator you become, you realize, and you able to see different opportunities and ways in which you can get through that. You figure that out, get out of that maze, get out of that, you know what I'm saying, or man, you know what I'm saying, some things do be karmic shit that we just got to deal with in our life, depending on the heaviness of it. And if it is something like, say you was born amputated, you know what I'm saying, you had to get an amputation, or you was born without a certain limb and shit like that, like these are more serious cases. But no matter what it is, you got some kind of illness and things of that nature in a certain part of the body. It's like all these things end up being things that, look, as it was some shit that was heavy and came down here, and now you just got to go through it and manage it the best way you can. You know what I'm saying? And it's like how you look, and how you look at it and how you choose to go about it is completely up to you. You know what I'm saying? But you know, that's the biggest thing. It's like, what you gonna do with it? You know what I'm saying? What you gonna do with it? And you know what I'm saying? If you yeah, like that's just what it is. Cause we all going through different shit, and we all got different things on our plate, and we all kind of gotta, you know what I'm saying, figure it out for ourselves. But getting back to this astrology shit, so you know, right now, like I said, the moon in Libra and shit like that. So you know, the good things about the moon being in Libra in general is it is connecting with Saturn. So in a lot of ways, we able to kind of see how we can probably make sense out of the things that we're going through and experiencing. You know what I'm saying? We can make sense out of it. We can put it together, work with it, work through it. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, and it's almost like being able to see the reality of your relationships and shit like that. So how you express yourself, but also the reality of it. So it might be hard to see the reality too, because the sun being opposite Saturn and shit like that. So we might not even like how we see in reality, or we might not get the full idea of, or not so much get the full idea of, but you might be looking at the reality of your situation the wrong way, or wanting to act on it in a way that ain't quite, you know what I'm saying, might not feel comfortable and shit like that. So the moon right now is giving us an emotional way to, you know what I'm saying, through the moon we can actually start to feel our way through reality and shit like that. And Saturn is still in retrograde too, so we're dealing with also a lot of past thought forms that we're breaking through. You know what I'm saying? And these are, and going back to what I said in the very beginning of the, I know this video long as shit, but in the very beginning of the video, you know, we was talking about, you know, these outer planets being kind of those themes and shit like that. So right now, with all these outer planets and retrograde and shit like that, we know we just dealing with a lot. Like we are going through, like I said, one of the most crucial times, because we're unpacking a lot of shit. We're healing a lot of shit. We're at the end of all this shit. There's gonna be probably a period of time where we're doing some really great. There will be opportunities to do a lot of great collaborations, or we'll all be in a different position. You know what I'm saying? And like we'll be in a different position that's more reflective on the type of work we've been doing. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you know, not to say it'll be right or wrong, not to be on no divination shit. It's just we gonna be in a different position, and based upon the work you do now, that's gonna tell you what kind of situation you've been created for yourself. And that's how it is always. You know what I'm saying? That's how it always is. But you know, going back to this and shit like that, it's just like these outer planets being in retrograde and shit like that. We still learning and unpacking and pushing through shit, like kind of moving through muddy water type shit. But you know what I'm saying, it's all about that momentum and inertia. You know what I'm saying? So as we continue to build and accumulate, we learning how to manage this shit. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So also it's gonna be trine and slight trine. You know what I'm saying, with Jupiter and shit like that. Jupiter's still 28 degrees, so it's kind of dealing with that Pisces energy too. But you know, Jupiter is kind of having to apply that wisdom and knowledge again in communication, and knowing our role within a certain community or group. You know what I'm saying? We at a time right now, everybody need a soul group and shit like that. So whatever group it is that you are associated with, you're gonna, you know, if you was planting the right seeds and shit, like it's retrograde still. So retrogrades is like you're gonna have to test it, and hopefully you learn your lesson. If not, it's a small period of time where you get to kind of redo it. You know what I'm saying? You'll get to see like, okay, well, I didn't quite see this, I didn't quite see that. And you got some time to kind of redirect it and then display it. And it's dealing with, of course, wisdom, knowledge, experiences and shit like that. So the experiences you going through within whatever community you involved with, is your uniqueness being acknowledged? Is there, because it's like kind of like peeping your role, because everybody got a role to play. Everything is space, relativity, positioning, angle and shit like that. So when you got Jupiter and Aquarius and shit like that, it's kind of like, if you not being an individual, right, within a community, aka you don't have your own unique perspective and shit like that, right, you may lack a proper angle to add value to that community. And the angle being like what I was talking about earlier, kind of like everybody got something to teach, but based upon you not having your unique a sense of your unique self, you're all right. So I was having trouble with the phone and shit like that. I was like, man, fuck all that shit. We just gonna do this straight with whatever I can get to record with, because I gotta get this information out. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, we talking about, yeah, like I was saying, we talking about um your unique wisdom, your unique philosophy, your unique experiences that you can apply and turn into wisdom and shit like that. So, you know what I'm saying? It's like, and Jupiter don't mind Uranus, you know what I'm saying? Jupiter don't mind Aquarius and shit like that, because it's like, you know what I'm saying? It's like that sextile energy where it's like you got a unique enough experience, you wise as shit. You know what I'm saying? People not, but not, you know what I'm saying? You're still unique, and it might come off rebellious and shit. So people might not get it. People might not want to agree with it and shit like that. It could come a little rough and shit like that. But still, it's your, you know what I'm saying? But within, in this context and things of that nature, it's like, if you're not embracing your uniqueness, and uniqueness is like I was saying, it's one of the biggest forms of currency right now. So it's like, if you're not really honing in on what makes you you, and what you came here to do, and what's real to you, and you're not making sense out of your uniqueness in some way. You know what I'm saying? Because like that's kind of like making sense out of your uniqueness is really coming from that Uranus and Taurus shit. But you're not making sense out of it. Then you're gonna lack in that area, and that's kind of what that retrograde kind of feels like to me. Where it's like that Jupiter and shit like that going back into that Aquarius space. It's like asking like, hey, are you really being your unique self? Like, you know what I'm saying? And with your unique self, is that being like, because if you're not honing in on your unique self and shit like that within a community, you're not going to have value. And that's where we're all shifting. And so back to what I was talking about with these outer planets and shit, and even though like Saturn ain't really an outer planet technically, but it's like a lot of the magic square and shit like that be based off of the Saturn, where Saturn is at. So a lot of things in society be geared around Saturn, just because Saturn, the principle of Saturn is how the structure of society and things of that nature, or the structure of reality, and what makes sense in reality and shit like that. Time, and we know time is like something that if you play with it the right way, you know what I'm saying, you create a reality for yourself. Like, depending on how you can slice and dice your time, the better you are with time, the better you are with precision and structure, and the better you can structure things, the better you can situate yourself in a certain pattern, or a certain, you know what I'm saying, have something to stand on, but also have something that you can put as a blockage to other things trying to take you off what you focused on, take you off your platform too. Like Saturn also can work as a defense system, where it's like, because you got a certain sufficient structure, it's like having a lawyer. You know what I'm saying? Where it's like you have a business, right? Your business is huge and elaborate, but you have certain, like, you got a certain system in place to where, say somebody wants to sue you, now you have a way to block that in defense. You know what I'm saying? Where it's like, okay, oh, you suing us? Okay, well, we already have a team organized to combat, like to defend against that. So now we don't even have to stress on some of these higher levels. We already got somebody down who can handle that lawsuit. And matter of fact, might even be able to make more sense out of whatever it is they like. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got a good lawyer. You know what I'm saying? And this being the esoteric realm too, where in the esoteric realm, having an esoteric lawyer and shit like that is like having the right thoughts and feelings, to where when someone tries to come at you or convince you to sign a certain contract, or tries to esoterically sue you, aka make you feel guilty about something, you got a sufficient mentality to be like, nah, hold up. And then you know what I'm saying, you got enough things in place to where it's like you don't even
get finessed out of that, because you able to see their intent, but you also able to make sense out of what they trying to get you to do. But you got the right form and the right mentality to be like, no, no, I'm not fit to do that. I can separate from that, aka that seventh principle. You know what I'm saying? Saturn being exalted in Libra and shit like that. Libra dealing even with that kind of lawyer energy and shit. But you able to. My point just being, you got a sufficient, you know what I'm saying? Saturn as a blocking, as a Saturn as a defense. You know what I'm saying? Like that. That's how that shit can work. Um, yeah, you know what I'm saying. And then so going on, continuing on, you know what I'm saying? So everything, a lot of things be kind of positioned based upon where Saturn is at, and Saturn being in Aquarius and things of that nature. Yeah. So we dealing with that energy and shit like that. So with that being said, right, dealing with that energy in that form, um, that being said, so um, that's kind of where, you know what I'm saying, we're making sense out of things. That's what's kind of the focus right now. And then that's also in being in retrograde. Hold on, phone going off. But you know what I'm saying, that shit being in retrograde and things of that nature. So it's like, you know what I'm saying, we still learning. I've been said that already and shit like that, but kind of continuing on. So you know, Pluto's still transforming. We still going through our transformations as well. You know what I'm saying? And that's another thing where it's like it's power control. So right now, like with Pluto being a retrograde in Cap, it's like still we taking power and control over. It's like the different things that's transforming and everything is changing. It's like the better you can take a power and control over it, and that just being in the sense of knowing, first of all, where Pluto is in your chart, specifically where that Capricorn energy is, and then basically whatever it is, whatever house is going through, taking that, because that's kind of like the, you know, in a lot of ways, you know, we're kind of like, so like I said, how I be looking at charts and shit like that, right? So we got Pluto still, we got these outer planets kind of occupying these Earth spaces. So that kind of tells me, okay, well, we in some way the theme of right now is making sense out of certain things, making sense out of our uniqueness, and making and taking power over how we structure shit, our own blueprint. You know what I'm saying? Because Capricorn is like the blueprint, it's the initiator of Earth, making sense out of things. Saturn shit, Saturn principles. So in a lot of ways, with those outer planets being there, it's like the theme is almost like making sense out of our uniqueness and taking power in how we want to structure our life. And see, with the other smaller, like the closer planets being in Virgo. Let me put do not disturb on. That's my favorite feature, yo. Favorite feature, you know what I'm saying? No offense to people texting me and shit like that, because I don't mind, but it just be like sometimes, you know, focus, you know what I'm saying? But anyway, those outer planets and shit like that being in Earth, it's like the essence of the backdrop and the theme of right now is like making sense out of our uniqueness and having our power, taking our power and control into how we want to structure things, because everyone doing the same thing. So we know even the people in power, they finding ways to do the same thing, where they're finding a unique way to create a system that we gonna have to abide by too. But you know what I'm saying, how we be seeing it, it's like like, and that's a whole different conversation that goes beyond astrology, more into the spirituality aspects and shit like that. And this video already long as shit, so I'm not about to go into that. But what I will say is, like, you know, beyond what's going on with them and shit like that, what's going on in the world, is the better you can do this for yourself. You won't even have to be in a situation to suffer through whatever comes from that. You know what I'm saying? And if it does come and present itself as a problem, you know what I'm saying, that's kind of the beauty of when you on the right side of energy, because there's always going to be a circumstances in which you'll be able to make the best out of that. You know what I'm saying? Right now, like, even if, you know what I'm saying, you are operating within the system and shit like that, it's like there's a lot of prosperity there. You know, like it can come in all forms, all possibilities. You know what I'm saying? As far as how you get into a circumstance in which you're able to manage the best result for yourself, whatever gets thrown at you. You know what I'm saying? And having that kind of faith. You know, also having faith in your uniqueness. You know what I'm saying? That's also something, like learning how to have faith in your uniqueness, as you know, with Jupiter and Uranus. You know what I'm saying? Because it's a square. You know what I'm saying? It's a square. You know what I'm saying? Uranus being one of those outer planets with a little wider reach. You know what I'm saying? It's like a, you know what I'm saying, slight square. You know what I'm saying? It's not really technically as far as with the perfect math and shit like that, but in energy wise, you know what I'm saying? Like learn to have a little faith with how you being unique and shit like that. And even Jupiter being in Aquarius in general, retrograde. That's another lesson too, having faith in our uniqueness and shit. And that's what right now calls for. Even in the new moon energy and us getting into this new persona and trying it out as the moon goes through these trials and shit like that, we're going to get deeper into the essence when the moon goes into Scorpio, deeper into the essence of self. Okay, what's the deeper aspects of self? And this is a square, so we're going to have to learn some of these deep desires that we have and how our persona can either go about getting it or how we might not want to go out in certain ways. We might not want to, or we you know what I'm saying, there might be things that we have to learn that, okay, we gotta clean this up behind the scenes, or behind closed doors. We gotta clean this up, because if I'm going to be expressing myself like this, I'm liable to be seen for a dirty room, or I'm like, somebody's liable to stumble across my closet, or somebody's liable to, you know what I'm saying. So if that's not cleaned up and situated, I need to chill out. And then when the moon gets into that trine state and shit like that, that's gonna kind of us being, okay, now I got a better way of being wise about, you know what I'm saying? I got a better wisdom about, you know, or different experiences. You know what I'm saying? It's like I got better wisdom through the experiences I went through expressing myself, you know what I'm saying? And then even in that sense, you're going to have more confidence because you've already been testing it out in different areas. Because see, a lot of times, like, especially with astrology, you can also get into the bad habit of being like, oh, I'll just wait till that energy come around. But like I said, everything a progression. So when you really get into this shit, when this shit really starts to become your lifestyle and shit, you start to realize any moment you take it and not going into doing what it is that you're trying to manifest is a wasted time, you know what I'm saying, or a bad investment. You know what I'm saying? A bad investment of time and shit like that. And so you start to realize, and going back with Saturn and shit like that, you know, well, now I'm gonna continue on where I'm going, but and then I'll loop back to that. But you know, yeah, you know what I'm saying. So yeah, when the moon gets into to Sagittarius, you know what I'm saying, there's gonna be, you know, a lot of light in the sky and shit like that. Um, and then also, yeah, there's gonna be a lot of light in the sky. You know what I'm saying? A lot of light in the sky and shit like that. But you know, and then as the moon goes into Capricorn, that's gonna be us getting more serious with it. You know what I'm saying? So it's gonna be more serious, and it's gonna be more in a way of being like, okay, well, how are we gonna structure this shit for real? And then now we get into the full moon space where it's like confidence. You'll be able to have more confidence into that shit where it's like you won't have to worry too much, you know what I'm saying, about, you've already kind of set things in place to be structured. So you should be in a space where you're around a community or involved in a group or an association, have certain associations set up to where they can find value in what you've already built, and they can also help your persona like flourish, or you'll be able to be your unique self in the association, expressing yourself full on as whoever the fuck you is. And you'll have the space to start to, and then it'll be full moon time, so it'll be like you reaping those benefits of you going through you know what I'm saying, structuring your new persona properly. You feel me? So like you get to reap all those benefits that come with those. And like I said, we don't want to get too far. I'm just talking up into the full moon and shit like that. So yeah, you know what I'm saying. That's the main thing. And so, you know, and then the planets I ain't really talking about. I didn't really talk about was, like, for instance, Neptune. Neptune being across from all this Virgo energy. Some might see that as a bad thing. I look at it more so like, look, our dreams are at home. You know, it's like right now, and this is why I'm thankful I am in this generation, especially being a Pisces, because it's like, you know, all of us are in a situation, a circumstance where, you know what I'm saying, it's like we're all in a circumstance and situation, but it's like we all able to really get to our dreams right now. You know what I'm saying? Just Neptune being in Pisces and right now being in retrograde. Like, you know, I really appreciate retrogrades because they are times to reset and get right. You know what I'm saying? So like right now it's like really a really great time because all these things and specifically them being outer planets. You know, when the inner planets it'd be a little more frustrating. Like when Mercury go retrograde, it'd be like, come on now. But the same thing, you know what I'm saying? Same thing, just a little more frustrated. These outer planets and shit like that. There's a lot of lessons, there's lessons in everything, you know what I'm saying? But it'd be like a different kind of lessons. Lessons that I don't know. I just be like, it's easier to appreciate because it's like a bigger picture thing. Like when Mercury retrograde starts creating havoc, it'd be like little shit that you just gotta work through in that moment. But you know what I'm saying? Like, you gotta appreciate those too, but in ways of thinking also. But getting back to my point. Sorry, I had to clip this shit, man. When you kind of start ripping the nail, it's a little too deep and shit like that. Start snagging on shit. All right, yeah. But anyway, clear that up. Um, with your with Neptune and shit like that, like I said, like I've grown to appreciate that because we all get into our dreams right now. Our dreams is like I said, it's sextile and Uranus too. So it's like really like I was saying, you're dreaming of. It's like for your dream to work, take the opportunity to be the most unique you can as yourself, the most unique self you can be, right on that end. But also, it's sextile and no, it's not sextile. I was gonna say it was sextile and Pluto and shit like that. So transforming that, taking power and control over that, you have the opportunity to really take power and control of structuring something involving structuring yourself in a way where your dreams can be relayed through your new way of structuring and shit like that. So that's the opportunity on the other end. Now with all this energy opposite the energy in Virgo, I look at it like I said. A lot of people might look at it as negative, but I look at it more like you able now to create balance and see the Neptune being in home and in its energy. All this Mercury, Mars, and Venus is like that shit. It's like look, say what you want about an opposition, but it's still an opportunity to create balance. It's still a seesaw. It's still what I'm saying. It's like we can create balance there. So it could either be a tug of war where you might doubt your dreams and shit like that and think too hard about them and procrastinate too much and get caught up in your dream being opposite how what you're passionate about and being like harder to appreciate the dream because Venus is over there and shit like that, so you can't even appreciate. You might think oh man, that's just out of my reach. You know what I'm saying? Because now Mercury's home and Neptune is home. Now Neptune being the outer planet and shit, or being like a what I'm saying, a stronger influence. You know what I'm saying? But still, Mercury being the closest to us and being like how we even put together thoughts and shit like that. It's like that'd be a combination that can throw you off. Throw you off your path, throw you off your goals, throw you off your dreams and shit like that. So try to look at it more so as a balancing act, opportunity for you to really look at it something. You know what I'm saying? Because like opposition, still opportunity available in there. You know what I'm saying? That's how I be looking at it. Where it's like the opportunity though is coming from creating balance. So the better you can structure your passions, right? You might have to separate these things in the sense of keep your dream, keep the dream alive, of course. So keep watering that shit, but keep it away from it when it comes because like a lot of our passions do be intertwined with our dreams. But it's like get passionate about structuring shit for your dream. Start to appreciate what the benefits of structure are so that when you can start applying your dream, aka when Venus gets into a better alignment with Neptune, you already went through the structure and shit like that. It'll be ready to support that. It'll be ready to flourish with that. Start to with how you think. It's like think and analyze what makes sense so that when it is time to think about your dream, it'll be able to be there sufficiently. It's like that's what I mean by separate. Sometimes we gotta separate, especially with oppositions. Things need to be that calls for some kind of form of like, hold on, these are two different things. So we need to know how to weigh these things. You put two things on the scale, but you didn't quite figure out how they compare to each other. Then you know what I'm saying? It's like you know what I'm saying. You put like you didn't quite get the. I feel like because it's kind of like a Libra type principle balance in general. But it's like if you're not applying the right logic to what two things you're putting on the scale, it's gonna you're not gonna be able to really balance it right, if that makes sense. Like if you didn't put the right logic and look at these two things and see are they even comparable, then you're not going to know the dynamics in which they can be balanced, or you know what I'm saying. And I'm talking about scale, so like my analogy might be bigger than the actual functions of a scale and shit like that. But like I'm just saying, like there is a form of logic where you have to acknowledge what two things you're putting on a scale to balance. And in this case, with dreams being what they are, and the structure, passionate, the structure of, you know what I'm saying, what, you know what I'm saying, it's like looking at the two things and be like, in this case, right, getting beyond the analogy, it's like Virgo energy is here to make sense out of things. It is here to have a routine pattern and schedule for things to move smoothly and efficiently. It is here to some form of structure, you know what I'm saying, to make sense. Pisces is here to dream. It's here to not make sense necessarily, but be a super creative imagination that can connect though. And that's where it makes sense, through the connection, the emotional. So when you're comparing these two things, it's like, all right, this energy over here, you, regardless of trying to, like, I feel like motherfuckers be trying to blend two. It's like you blend when you can. You, depending on what two energies is, but you blend when you can. But in this case, it's like these two energies are better off if you kind of create a little distance or acknowledge and respect the different aspects of them. And that's what I mean really with the Libra principle. When it comes to balancing anything, you have to logically understand the dynamics of the two things that you're putting on the scale of balance. So in this case, it's like we looking at Neptune and shit. Let Neptune do what it's doing. Keep the dream alive. Keep watering that motherfucker. Stay there. But when it comes to this real life shit, it's like you still gonna have to get passionate though about how you structure yourself for the dream. You're gonna have to appreciate structure in itself for the dream to work. You're gonna have to think about what's real right now and let your dream just be your dream space. But think about what's real about your dream, maybe. But don't let those overthink, don't let it get to overthinking and over worrying about whether it's not something that's going to work in your dream, because it's like that's going to come out naturally because there is an opposition in the sky. But just remind yourself, like, let me not overthink that. I don't need to be thinking about that. My dream is my beautiful dream. How I'm thinking though is about how to make sense out of shit. So let me just use my mind for what it can be used for and do my best to make sense out of things and not worry about what specific detail aspect of my dream is finna make sense right here. Even though that's gonna come up naturally, but it's like acknowledging the two things on the scale and how you can create balance there. You know what I'm saying? So, that's basically the main of it. But I've been talking for a real long time. Last thing I want to talk about though is Chiron right here too. Chiron in retrograde and shit like that, in Aries and shit like that. So it's trined up, you know what I'm saying, with the sun. And what's happening right now is, look, just, we see mistakes. You know what I'm saying, but don't let them freak you out. You know what I'm saying? It's like a gift. You know what I'm saying? We can see what was not working, see what might be a mistake in the future. Even if we went through something and stumbled a little bit, we got enough energy to be like, okay, well, that's still, you know what I'm saying, I need to be careful when it comes to this. I need to be careful when it comes to that. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, you know what I'm saying? Also, initiate a new way to see your mistakes. Don't let your mistakes define your future. You know what I'm saying? Initiate a different way and change how you feel about a mistake, so that, because also us expressing ourselves and coming into this new persona, we also going to be exposed to new insecurities and new things, that new problems that might arise from past mistakes. It's like, don't let that happen. You know what I'm saying? Just kind of keep your mind focused and know, oh, okay, if that was a past mistake, acknowledge the wisdom in it, and then, you know what I'm saying, like, it's time to kind of like not sweep it under the rug, but change how you feel about it. And be like, hey, had to go through that. You know what I'm saying? Had to go through that. It is what it is. It's over now. I might still be suffering a little bit of the consequences, but I'm turning all this around because I'm being me. I'm being my authentic self, and whatever I did as a mistake, I must not have been myself doing that. That must not have been me. You feel me? So yeah, you know what I'm saying? And yeah, like, whew, North Node is also sextile in that, North Node sextile in the sun and shit like that. There's opportunities all around us, you know what I'm saying? So, we just we gotta take it one day at a time, you feel me? So yeah, that ended up being an energetic overview. I know it's gonna be long as shit, but I appreciate anybody who's been, you know, rocking through this whole video and shit like that. And yeah, you know what I'm saying? We're gonna get it on the next one. I will catch y'all very soon. Peace. Oh, also, the Equinox mixtape is now on Spotify and Apple Music and shit like that. So if you really enjoyed that mixtape, go ahead and check it out. I also got a bonus track on that motherfucker. So yeah, you know what I'm saying? Go ahead and check that out. And the bonus track, well, you'll see. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, peace out.